Welcome back, everybody, to The Creative Moment, Season 8, Episode 10. We will be officially moving studios after I may have just broken this studio's table. So, but anyway, our season finale of our 8th season here is, we've got a good one for you. So, we also have, along with us, the brand new bubbler, only here for a limited time.
Haven't tried it yet.
So, let's crack these open. Give a quick taste review.
Okay. Yep, orange sickle leg. Yeah.
Pretty verbatim.
Yep, it's pretty good.
Again, only here for a limited time, apparently, from what Bubbler says. So go and get it now if you have not already. But anyway, today we are talking about how creativity positively influences the other aspects of our lives. We've touched on somewhat similar topics in the past, more of maybe impacting other people or how we use it to kind of in other areas, not necessarily just the creative world, just different things. But today, that's kind of our topic. So let's go ahead and dive right into it.
So I was actually this topic the other day. So and we mentioned part of this before, but me and your sister and stuff, we just came up with this silly game in the living room because we got these exercise balls for doing the health challenge, and it was just laughing and stuff, and I was just kind of sitting there on the floor looking at the ceiling during the rest moment, and I was just like, who in the world would think of doing something like this if it wasn't a little bit like creative? If it didn't, or if I just ignored creativity and things and just have a little fun, and there are silly rules like we were tossing it and then you had to yell out something, and Leo, she was like, say the alphabet backwards as we're trying to play catch, and it just like that was one of my first instincts. It was just like, hey, being creative or having that muse and stuff like that allows you not to have to be bored to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's positive things about being bored, but the positive things about being bored is that it generates creativity, But also just flipping that, though, if you're creative, you don't ever, you don't get to that state of like that real boredom that kind of hurts and it's like, oh my life, I don't know what to, So that was my first instinct. But then there's some other aspects of like, because of creativity, what other things and areas actually get a positive role or influence from it. Okay? So I know, and we've actually, because I think we talked about the shark game one time.
I think so.
Yeah, that I made up. So just like it's still in play, that part, that creativity allows, me to come up with crazy games as a kid.
Yeah. I think one of the ways it impacts me is like early on, I've talked about this, but early on I wasn't necessarily as confident in like releasing my stuff, posting my stuff, posting my work, because I kind of had I didn't want to be vulnerable to that feedback, positive or negative, really. I would just rather have no feedback than a variable amount of impact or feedback. And so now I'm very confident in showing my work, I mean, for the most part. But that openness to vulnerability can seep into other aspects of my life. I don't think I would have been able to share my first mental health speech if I was still in that initial creating stage where I didn't feel, because I knew it was going to be kind of an emotional thing, and that's obviously showing emotion is a very vulnerable act in itself. But if I was not as confident in being able to take feedback and being able to just kind of live with whatever it was, good or bad, I don't think I would have been able to start doing mental health stuff and not feeling as didn't care as much about how people received it, in the sense of the negativity wouldn't bother me. So that just in essence of being creative and being openly creative has helped me be vulnerable in other aspects of my life and take kind of all the stuff that comes from posting that creativity more with a grain of salt or less personally, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, and that was another aspect that I was related to that, because being I think being creative actually lets whatever that you do artistically, but it allows you to process emotions and things like that in ways that other people who maybe don't delve into their creativity or stuff like that don't have that tool set. As we had the jam on Thursday, that's an online community and stuff, and I shared one of my April poems, but it was connected to just being hit with not grief exactly, but thinking about when it's just over a year since biological dad passed away, and just something that and like that emotion came through, and that emotion, instead of just sitting it ended up as a poem, but creativity allows expression, through photography, through painting, through whatever you can work on part of that. Then dealing with that builds confidence, builds a stronger emotional state. And I can totally see, and as you gain confidence and practice and other stuff, then you have more opportunities because you can be okay taking on the opportunity or trying, in your case of speaking at schools, not for what you're totally known for, but
right.
Speaking on the mental health part, and you still connect it because that's part of the journey.
Yeah, I also think it helps you articulate those emotions better. Sometimes when you get caught in the middle of like, am I angry, am I sad? The act of creating can be kind of a conduit into, because through the process of trying to mold the creation into telling what you want it to tell, you're figuring out what you're actually feeling, whether if your poem is more kind of anger based or grief based or things like that. So it can help you kind of cut out more clear emotions in where you are. Another thing I think it helps do, at least for me, is it helps you kind of slow down. Like we've talked about, creativity is very fast paced. I feel like just that kind of I don't know how to say it. The industry expects a lot of content all the time and consume it quickly, whatever. But the actual process of writing the poem or just putting down your creative thought, if you want to get it up to kind of a high standard that you have, it takes a lot of time. I cannot rush just kind of the creative aspect. If I do, it becomes just less and less creative, kind of like a direct proportion there. The more I rush things, the less creative I feel like I can be. So I think it helps you just kind of slow down and be able to, I guess, understand that things kind of take more time than you typically want them to or need them to, and that like the fall of 2023 will be a t-shirt for me at some point. But looking back at that, there was no kind of rushing through just all the crazy things personally and professionally that happened through that period. There was like just a week where I just gotta like sit with it and then move on. I can't just try and get over it in a day or get over it in a week type thing.
And because artwork and other things, our society, just in everything, we only see the finished product. But it takes, when you learn the backstories of famous paintings and other stuff, and what there's life in a sense behind all of it, and slowing down. And what I also heard that I was like, oh, that's a good one too, is that if you are honest about your creativity and serious about your creativity, it makes other aspects of your life of setting a standard of what you will accept and not accept. And, it's a simple, again, we've said it one time, I know for sure, but I don't remember where it came from again, that how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so if you're taking your creativity seriously and making sure it's, that just filters into other aspects, your relationships, your job, handling finance, you're just like, you set a standard, and that is one of those benefits. We may not think about it, that it's a direct correlation, but it is, because it becomes a habit. It's like, this is what I do to make good work, and then it just filters in and helps create a solid standard of what you want to be as a person, and stuff in other areas. It's like, that's on the fly. Just as you were talking about, it's just like,
with it being my everyday livelihood, I definitely notice it a lot more. Whether it's
true. I mean, you actually make money doing this. I do not, but I still think I have a high standard.
Yeah. But I can feel the weeks where I maybe fall below that standard, because it does. Usually, the most noticeable is kind of how clean the apartment gets. If which is weird, but I have an office now, so I mostly create there. Now I still work here a decent amount, but most of my work is now there. And most of the time when I've had kind of maybe less productive days or just less creative days, I'll come home and I'll care just a little bit less about the dishes that are just sitting there instead of just putting them in the dishwasher. Or literally, I don't know why this happens to everybody, but throwing your clothes near the hamper is so much easier than putting them in the hamper. So instead of putting the socks at the end of the day in the hamper, I'll throw them. If they get in the hamper, great. If they don't, I'm like, whatever. But I notice when I set the standard creatively, it's so much easier to just get into let's just do this, let's knock this, let's vacuum today, let's do whatever, and have that standard just be held not only through creativity but through just kind of every other part of my life. Kind of an easy one is, I think it really helps you be a better critical thinker.
Oh yeah, that was one my thinking.
Yeah, because critical thinking is kind of in essence being creative, just in a more problem-solving lens versus a creation lens. Yeah. And so neither of us are handyman. Figuring out just creative ways to maybe put something together or fix something or do something like this. All of those kind of problems that come up in everyday life, it helps, I feel like, pull me into a critical thinking mode. One, quicker, but two, help me get to a solution quicker, because I'm not just thinking of the inside the box ways to figure out the problem. For example, when I went up to Pawnee City and didn't have the drone, I could have just been like, well, he's not getting drone stuff, or I can mold my schedule in a way where I don't have to reschedule mentoring or do this, and then figure out a different way to just go up there, get the job done, and have it all be square. That's kind of a small one, but
and it matches your standard aspect also. It's a combination of both and we don't think about it, but there's so many things that happen on a daily basis that if you can't think critically or think quickly, or okay, this is happening, so I got to do this and maybe rearrange, or something breaks and you got to fix it quick. And the smoothness of life happens when you can solve your problems quickly and deal with them in a satisfactory way and then move on. Just dealing with young people and stuff like that. Sometimes it feels like there's so much drama a little bit. Well, if you would just do this, that, I'm
everything
sitting there.
Else just fall in line.
Yeah, everything would just fall, but they don't think, they're so caught up in just, well, what do I do? What do I do? And well, I've got solutions, but it's not my place to do, and it just seems and sometimes even in the adult world and stuff, for some people, like, well, I can think of somehow how to solve this if you would just, but they get caught up. And that's not that they're not creative, just it seems like you get, especially under stress, your thinking can get pretty narrow. And being creative, though, makes you, like, you're always kind of...
Thing at the Y, that was kind of an unorthodox way to get that doc sent out, but...
Well, yeah, and it worked, and we were like, yeah, let's do this. And, yeah, our lives are filled with those types of situations. And creativity, because you're always thinking, or you can see things a different perspective. It doesn't make it easier. That's not but we get through things, get them handled, and then we move on. And we're not kind of stuck in sometimes very simple things.
Yeah, because part of critical thinking is just having an open mind to, like, multiple solutions. And, like, for example, when taking photos or whatever, and the sun is hitting this maybe sign or something, and I have to photograph the senior with the sign, whatever, but to get them with the sign and them without them getting blown out on their face because the sun's shining on them, like, it takes a critical thinker and creative mind to be able to figure out how to get those both in play while achieving the lighting aspect that you want, and knowing that there's probably not one answer that is, like, inherently just correct. It's all just kind of in the middle of black and white. It's all just gray. Just figure out a solution that works, and if it meets that standard, go with it. If not, figure something else out. And having just an open mind is something I feel that people are doing less and less and less of. But creativity kind of helps you open that up, whether it's laying out a graphic, figuring out the best angle to do something, figuring out the best form to put in a poem, what adjective works syllable-wise, different things like that.
I mean, it is. The ability to... there was actually... Now I forgot what... it was a paperclip test. I forgot what the official name is. This is the world of psychology. And how many ways that you can think of to use a paperclip kind of was an older test now. I don't know if they, and see how well you could open up to new ideas, or can you just see the paperclip as one thing? Well,
hold papers together.
Hold papers, like what, like, and so there, in the world of psychology, critical thinking and stuff like that has always been an interesting, study. But yeah, I do think, honestly, I was just actually thinking about all the crazy cooking recipes we have dealt with. Just throw it together one, because sometimes, you don't have much food. And if you've ever seen the show Chopped, they actually kind of, do that critical thinking, watching them on the fly, not quite on the fly. They actually get 2 minutes after they open the baskets. But it's doing creative things affects your affects your brain regions, and makes lots of areas active and stuff. But also, within the part of the spiritual side also, because as I was saying, it's like, you also, being a creative, you also come to the point of when whatever project is done or things like that, like, that it has, and we've talked about that creativity, or what we produce, is a snapshot of time. But I think there's a depth there that when it's done, you're just like, and then you don't let go as in, I don't care about it anymore, but you let the moment go, and then you move on, to the next one. And you see the interconnectedness sometimes of some projects or some stories come into play later. It's just positive. Be creative just to help your thinking.
Yeah, there's just a lot of ways that it can weave itself into your life that's not just specifically creating something.
Yeah.
And the lifestyle, I guess not lifestyle, but the life, the way you live your life is, or at least mine personally, is so much molded by the creative process, being creative, what that has kind of led for me to be able to be flexible with different lifestyle. Like the waking up at 4 a.m. Was something that creativity helped me do, because instead of just saying, oh, I can't work in the afternoons, so I must not be able to put together an 8-hour day, just thinking creatively, what if I just get up earlier and execute my day there, so I don't get so quickly backlogged, so I don't like just run into frustration and not working as much, whatever, all those different things. It happens a lot when I travel, creatively trying to find a flight home when your flight gets canceled, whatever.
Or find shelter when there's a snowstorm and you're in Colorado. And
Yikes.
and everybody's looking at you because you're the one who...
But yeah, there's just a lot of ways that creativity can help mold your life in a positive way that at some points just becomes subconscious, and just having that to kind of rely on, that it can give you some of those confidence, critical thinking skills that are important in all aspects of life, whether it's your routine or your relationships or whatever. So yeah, do something creative. Like we've talked about way back in our first episode, being creative is not taking a photo, writing a poem, painting a painting. It's just exercising the expression of yourself into maybe something that's kind of tangible. So yeah, that was our season finale of episode 8. We're train's still rolling. Season 9 will be, again, same routine in 2 weeks. But we hope you enjoyed not only this whole season, but the podcast in general. If you do, subscribe to it, follow it. You can do it on YouTube or Spotify, Apple, any of those things. You can subscribe to get notifications about when we post. It's usually every other Tuesday. But yeah, thank you guys so much as always for your support, and we'll see you in season 9.